One meal, 200 sick passengers, a cruise ship forced to turn around early. That actually happened, and the food that caused it is probably sitting on the buffet right now. I spent 14 years behind the guest services desk, watching passengers come in sick and confused. I kept a mental note of which food showed up in those stories. These are the 15, ranked from bad to worst. Number 15. Buffet scrambled eggs in warming trays. Almost everybody eats these at breakfast without a second thought. Here's the problem. When you lift that lid, hot air escapes and the temperature drops. Eggs sitting at a safe temperature at 7 in the morning are well into the danger zone by 9. That danger zone is between 40 and 140 degrees, the exact range where Salmonella multiplies fastest. The warming tray keeps them warm, not safe. And the longer the breakfast service runs, the worse those odds get. There's a made-to-order omelet station 5 feet away on most ships. Walk over there, say, "Can you make that fresh?" One sentence. Always works. Fresh eggs cooked in front of you and served immediately carry a fraction of the risk of anything sitting in a tray. The next one sounds harmless until you understand what's actually happening before it reaches your plate. Number 14. Daily special soups and bisques. Passengers hear daily special and think fresh. In a high-volume cruise kitchen, special can also mean we need to use this before the whole date. Cream-based bisques and thick seafood soups are batch prepared, held, and sometimes reheated across multiple service periods. Here's the thing most people don't realize about reheating. It doesn't undo bacterial contamination that already happened during improper holding. If a soup cooled too slowly between services, the damage is already done before it hits the bowl. The premium dining room soup is usually made fresh the same day. The mainstream buffet's lobster bisque special? Ask one question before you eat it. Was this made today? The answer will tell you everything you need to know. Most passengers never think of ice as a food safety risk, but that's exactly why this next one matters. Number 13. Self-serve ice from passenger-accessible bins. Dining rooms use dedicated scoops and strict handling protocols. Every crew member knows the procedure. The self-service ice bins at pool decks and buffet stations are a completely different story. They are open to everyone. Hands go in. Glasses get dipped directly into the bin. Kids reach in and touch multiple cubes before grabbing one. And unlike food, nobody thinks of ice as something that can make you sick. But it melts into every drink you pour, carrying whatever was introduced into that bin with it. Norovirus survives on surfaces and in water. Ice is no exception. Ask a crew member to scoop it for you instead of using the self-serve bin. That one habit costs you nothing and changes the risk entirely. You'd think a dessert station would be one of the safer choices. It isn't. Number 12. The communal chocolate fountain. Hundreds of passengers dip into the same flowing stream over the course of a single evening. Hands touch it. Children put fingers directly in. Partially eaten fruit gets double dipped. Strawberries go in, come back out, go in again. The chocolate runs at around 100 degrees, warm enough to stay fluid, nowhere near hot enough to kill anything. Everything passengers introduce into that fountain circulates indefinitely through the entire system. There is no mechanism that removes what goes in. I watched what happened at the chocolate fountain on busy sea days for 14 years, and I'm not going to editorialize. What I will say is this. Individually portioned chocolate desserts from the pastry case are right there next to it. They're made in a controlled kitchen, handled by one person, and sealed until you pick them up. Choose those instead. This next machine looks fun. Behind the scenes, it's one of the most overlooked contamination risks on the ship. Number 11. Soft-serve ice cream from self-serve machines. Soft-serve machines need to be completely disassembled and sanitized every single day. not rinsed, disassembled. When that doesn't happen perfectly, bacterial biofilms develop inside the internal components and contaminate every batch that follows. The machine can look clean from the outside and be a problem on the inside. The CDC has documented multiple outbreaks traced directly to soft-serve machines on cruise ships. Listeria has been found in improperly maintained machines at land-based facilities too. This isn't a cruise-only issue, but on a ship with thousands of people using one machine, the exposure is concentrated. On busy sea days when the machine runs non-stop, the cleaning window gets shorter and the oversight gets thinner. You have no way of knowing if it was done right. Pre-packaged ice cream bars are manufactured in sealed, controlled facilities and don't get touched until you open them yourself. That's the safer call every time. Cold cuts look like one of the most straightforward options at the buffet. They're not. Number 10. Deli meats and cold cuts from open trays. Listeria is a bacteria that actually thrives in refrigeration between 32 and 40 degrees, exactly where those sliced meats are stored. Most people assume cold means safe. With Listeria, the opposite is true. The trays sit open for hours, touched repeatedly by shared tongs that hundreds of passengers have handled throughout the day. Cross-contamination from other nearby foods is constant. And here's the part most people don't know. Listeria can take up to 70 days to cause symptoms. You get sick 2 months after the cruise and never connect it back to the cold cut station on deck 11. Older adults face a significantly elevated risk from Listeria infections, serious complications, not just a stomach ache. Hot sandwiches where the meat is heated through are fine. The cold cuts from the open tray, skip them entirely. Even the freshest looking station on the ship can become a problem when the system changes around it. Number 9. Pool deck grill food on port days. On port days, a large portion of the crew is ashore handling resupply, logistics, and rotations. The grill keeps running, but often with reduced or substituted staff. Lower oversight, longer times between fresh batches, food sitting longer because half the ship is also off the boat. The person running that grill might be someone filling in from a completely different station. They know how to cook. They may not know that grill's specific batch rhythm or temperature habits. I'm not saying the crew is being negligent. I'm saying the system runs differently when half the operation is somewhere else, and those differences matter when you're talking about ground meat and poultry. On port days, the main dining room is the safer choice. The grill will still be there on sea days. Timing matters more than most people realize, and eating at the wrong moment is a mistake even experienced cruisers make. Number 8. Buffet food at the very end of service. Most people think the early buffet is the risk because food was prepared hours before service even opened. That's true, and it is a real concern, but the end of service is equally dangerous, and almost nobody talks about it. During peak lunch at noon, food gets replaced constantly because demand is high, and trays empty fast. The pasta, sitting at 2:45 when service winds down, has been in that tray for 2 hours with no replenishment. The staff have started to check out. The crowd is gone. Nobody is monitoring that station closely anymore. If you are the last person in a nearly empty buffet line, that is your signal to walk away. The dining room is usually still open. Peak service hours, when turnover is highest and eyes are on every station, are always the safest window to eat. This next one isn't about the food itself, it's about what happens to it after it lands in your cabin. Number 7. Room service food eaten hours after delivery. You order breakfast to your cabin, you're getting ready for a port, packing your bag, getting the kids ready. You get distracted, you come back, and the sandwich and fruit plate are still sitting on the tray 2 hours later, maybe 3. Once food is delivered, The temperature clock starts immediately, regardless of what the food is or how it looked when it arrived. Proteins sitting at room temperature enter bacterial growth territory within 2 hours. That's not a loose guideline. It's the point at which risk escalates sharply. I noticed over the years that a meaningful number of sick passengers who came to my desk mentioned eating room service from earlier that morning. Nobody thinks of it as a risk because it came from the kitchen. If it's been sitting more than 2 hours, don't eat it. Call down and order something fresh. Now we're moving into the items that appeared most consistently in the stories passengers brought to my desk. Number 6. Buffet chicken that looks dry and has been sitting. Chicken has to reach a safe internal temperature throughout to be safe, but properly cooked chicken sitting in a warming tray for 2 hours develops uneven heat distribution. The top pieces might still be acceptably warm. The bottom pieces touching the metal tray, or the ones buried in the middle of a large pile, can drop to temperatures where bacteria survive and multiply. Here's the visual you're looking for. If the chicken is dry, the skin has gone rubbery, and there's no visible steam rising when you move a piece, that's your signal to walk past it. Order chicken from the dining room where it's cooked to order, or get it from the pool grill on a busy sea day where they're cooking small batches continuously. The large pile of fried chicken that's been sitting out since 11:30, leave it alone every single time. You probably already suspected this one. What you don't know is exactly why it's so much riskier on a ship than anywhere else. Number 5. Pre-cut fruit salad and melon mixes. When fruit is whole, the skin is a protective barrier against everything in the environment. The moment it's cut, that barrier is gone and the clock starts. Melons are the worst offenders specifically because their rough, porous rind harbors bacteria that transfers directly to the flesh the second a blade goes through, even if the outside was washed. Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli outbreaks have all been traced back to pre-cut melon in large catering environments. On cruise ships, that fruit salad was often prepared the night before, sometimes 10 to 12 hours before you're eating it. Then it sits in an open bowl on the buffet for another 2 or 3 hours after that. The cumulative exposure time is enormous compared to anything you'd prepare at home. Grab a banana, grab an orange. Anything with intact skin you can wash and peel yourself is a completely different risk profile. This next one gets served in the sun by the pool, where the entire environment is working against you. Number 4. Mayo-based salads at the pool deck. Potato salad, pasta salad, coleslaw, all moisture-rich, all high in protein or starch, and all sitting in open air in the heat, with lids getting left off and temperatures cycling in and out of safe zones every time a cloud passes or the wind shifts. Staphylococcus aureus bacteria produces toxins in exactly these warm, moist conditions. Those toxins cause illness fast. Symptoms can begin within 1 to 6 hours of eating. And here's the critical part. Those toxins survive refrigeration. Once they form, cooling the food back down does not neutralize them. The salads look fine. They usually taste fine. The contamination is completely invisible, odorless, and tasteless. And passengers had no idea anything was wrong until they were sitting at my desk 2 hours later, asking about the nearest medical center. This is where we move from food safety risks into territory where I never once saw a crew member eat from the station. Not once in 14 years. Number 3. Rare or medium rare fish and undercooked meat. Some dining rooms serve tuna or salmon seared on the outside, but left raw in the middle, a preparation that's fashionable in fine dining. On land, at the right restaurant with tightly controlled sourcing, maybe that's a reasonable choice. On a cruise ship, the variables are completely unknowable to you as a passenger. The specific risk with ocean fish is a parasitic worm called Anisakis. It's present in a wide range of species including tuna, salmon, mackerel, and herring. If the fish isn't cooked to a safe internal temperature, live Anisakis larvae survive and cause severe abdominal pain, vomiting, and in some cases require surgical removal. You don't know how long that fish has been in storage. You don't know if the cold chain held perfectly through every port loading. The words to use at the table are simple. Could I have that fully cooked through? Every dining room will do it without hesitation and without making it a moment. Buffet sushi looks like one of the more premium options on the ship. It's one of the most dangerous. Number 2, buffet sushi and raw fish that has been sitting. Made-to-order sushi from a dedicated specialty restaurant on a newer ship is a different conversation. Prepared fresh by a trained sushi chef, served immediately, temperature controlled throughout the process. Buffet sushi shares none of those conditions. Raw fish sitting on trays under inconsistent temperatures handled by dozens of shared serving utensils, cross-contaminated by physical proximity to warm foods on the same line. The sourcing varies by port. The fish loaded in one port may be from entirely different waters and supply chains than the fish from the previous one. Holding times are unknown to anyone eating it. One practical test: if you're at a specialty restaurant and you ask, "Is this made to order?" and the answer is yes, you're in a genuinely different situation. If the sushi is coming off a pre-arranged tray in any room on the ship, it carries the same risks as buffet sushi regardless of the surroundings. And the number one food I watched caused more illness, more medical bills, and more ruined vacations than anything else on the ship. Number 1. Raw oysters and shellfish from the raw bar. In 14 years, I never once saw a crew member eat from the raw bar. Not once. Not on any ship I worked. Oysters are filter feeders. Their biology is specifically designed to draw in and concentrate everything present in the surrounding water, including bacteria, viruses, and chemical contaminants. That includes norovirus, which is responsible for the majority of gastrointestinal illness outbreaks on cruise ships. One contaminated oyster can carry millions of individual norovirus particles. It takes fewer than 20 particles to infect a person. On land, oysters sold for raw consumption come from monitored, certified waters and typically reach the consumer within days of harvest. On a cruise ship, they may have been in storage for weeks before arriving at the raw bar, then held on ice at an open buffet station where the temperature shifts every time a passenger lifts the sneeze guard. When a norovirus outbreak investigation was opened on any ship I worked, the raw bar was always one of the first stations the environmental health officer examined. Always, without exception. Cooked shellfish, steamed mussels, grilled scallops, shrimp cooked through is perfectly fine and genuinely good on most ships. Raw oysters, raw clams, ceviche made with uncooked seafood, I wouldn't go near them, and neither would anyone else who worked in that industry long enough to see the pattern. You don't need to be paranoid at every meal. The vast majority of cruise food is completely fine, but these 15 items have a specific reason they're riskier than they look, and now you know what it is. Like and subscribe for more.